Dileep, you used to live in Doha a very long time ago, and now you're back. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be back.
When we look at kind of scaling those financial services, I'd love to get your view on looking at a place like Doha, maybe for companies who are looking to start here. How would you look at that as somebody who knows the country really well, but has seen it also grow and make tremendous strides into where we are today with the metro and post-World Cup?
Yeah, so as you were mentioning, I actually grew up in Doha about 20 years ago, so it's really interesting and amazing to kind of be back and to see the amount of kind of development here. I remember like the Sheraton Hotel, the one like the triangle, that was always there and that's still here, but a lot of other things have changed around it. For us, when we think about building, especially if you think about the Middle East, we look at it from an infrastructure perspective. So the way we've kind of architected our system today, a lot of the infrastructure does a lot of the work outside of the license. The license is the one thing you can't really get from anywhere else. You have to get a local license to issue a local card. But if you think about the processing, if you think about the KYB, which is Know Your Customer, if you think about the ability to actually do fraud detection, all of that we do centrally. And so when you think about moving or starting in Doha, for instance, we could launch here as soon as next year because we don't have to rebuild any of that stack. And so originally the plan was after Europe, which we cover today, to move into the Middle East. And even today our European region is called EMEA because it includes Middle East. We just haven't launched here, but that's something we're looking at for 2025 once we get back onto kind of a growth trajectory this year. So last year was a lot more focused on unit economics. This year we're back on kind of a sales swing, and then next year will be more on the expansion side.
So Jeeves to launch in Doha next year. Is that a Web Summit and CNBC exclusive?
We'll see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. I love breaking news. Thank you for helping me with that. And how do you localize when you look at a market? Like you work a lot in Latin America and North America, but you know the Middle East is such a diverse and different and young region. How do you target consumers here?
So we look at it in a few different ways. One, there's the most obvious one, which is language. And even that's not super easy to do because you can do a translation, but it doesn't convey the same meaning. And that's something we've learned firsthand, even from our service in Portuguese and Spanish. Just because it's the literal translation of English doesn't mean it conveys what you want the user to do. And so a big part of what we invest in is user experience, which is making sure the user journey is actually getting you the right outcome, independent of what the language actually is. So I think that's one more direct box that as you get to a certain skill, it makes sense for you to kind of do. I think the second one that's a little more complex is what is the version of the product that is unique to the local market. So in some markets, we take deposits in Europe, in North America, etc. In Latin America, we do credit primarily and less on the deposit side. And it's tailored a little bit to the market itself. And so that's a localization nuance that is not as obvious as language, but it's just as important, in fact, probably more important because you're really tailoring it to how people use your product. And if you don't do both of them, then you're kind of missing, 50% of the equation, in my opinion.